Apple.
Apple, okay. TV offerings or?
Yeah, they're going to be jumping into the TV streaming business.
Okay. Streaming content. And Chris?
Still working on it.
Okay.
Been a busy.
Need help or?
No, I think I'm
we
good.
good?
Yeah.
Okay, Kira?
I still have all my old ideas down.
Just choose one so that we know. So Thursday we're good.
I was gonna write about the Netflix thing.
Netflix, what aspect?
The Oscars, it was the thing on Variety.
Oh, okay. All right. So Netflix closed out of Oscars.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's great. Kibwe, any ideas?
I was thinking about the Disney when Disney just announced it.
Disney streaming?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We got Disney Plus. That's excellent. Some more streaming news. Cool. And Fenris, idea?
I was thinking about the Universal merger.
Okay. So that would be, geez, that's a while back. But how about the Fox and Disney?
Yeah.
That one? Okay, sure. Okay, so Disney is big in our Disney plus Fox merger. Okay, great. So just a reminder, the easiest way to find an article to digest is Google News rather than searching through other possible sources. But I mean, Google News would get you to, let's see, I was going to suggest if anybody was still looking for a topic, and if there's anybody tuning in online. So this is big news in the content production area lately. Skip the ad, please. So the Writers Guild of America is suing the 4 largest Hollywood talent agencies for what some observers, perhaps in this article, I haven't read it, but just from what I have been reading from various different sources, it could be a sort of a big deal in the dramatic television and movie area of the business, because what the Writers Guild objects to is what are called packaging fees. So the big agencies put together, a package of performers, writer, producer to make a television show, for instance, basically acting the way a production studio used to. And for that, they charge a fee. Which means that they, participate in the profit of a show that gets greenlit and goes to, a network or a movie or something. But at the same time, they represent the people who are involved in the production. So sometimes that goes very well because they and their clients, profit from something going forward. But sometimes the agency profits at the expense of their client, which is a big, conflict of interest. So it is not such in every case, but in plenty of cases, it turns out that the company that is supposed to represent you and get you the best deal is also alongside you at the table taking profit, and that doesn't always work out in the best. As you can see, there would be a conflict of interest if, the writer wound up working for the agency that's supposed to represent them. The agency would then become like their employer, and the agency was supposed to fight with their employer on their behalf to get the best deal, and instead, the agency may be going after getting the best deal for them, which may not be the best deal for the individual that they supposedly represent. So this is wrapped up in a dispute about what they call packaging fees, which is one way that the agencies make even more money. You'd think they just make a cut representing a creative person, but in fact, when they put together a project like this, they make a cut on the entire life of the show. And even when it does go into profit, they make sometimes more than the writers and the producers do. And all they did was put together the original package. But for that, they're making money for years after. So it does seem like, kind of an unreasonable cost, and the Writers Guild is attacking them. And so, now there's going to be a big fight. And whenever the writers are unhappy, if they go on strike, then the whole thing goes up, right? There's no one writing shows. And
Or movies.
More movies, right? So then there's a lot of reality TV out there, which is
Yeah.
basically being.
My brother works in the industry, and
Is he a writer?
no, his wife's like a line producer.
Cool.
And like she's up there. He does like daily accounting and stuff.
Okay.
They work on like all the movies that nobody asked for, but like the Transformers movies, and, like
Wow.
songs and all that
Okay,
stuff.
like huge summer blockbuster type
Yeah,
things.
and I guess like a few years ago there was a big writer's strike.
Yeah.
And it was like right in the middle of one of those Transformers movies, and,
Oh, gosh.
and everybody is just like, it was stopped dead.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't go forward and try to improvise it on set or
They ended up doing that, yeah, but like it cost them a ton of money, and I mean the movie was bad to begin with, but it was even worse afterward.
Apparently, the new Transformers movie has like got a heart and soul to it.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I hear.
Yeah. Good, like little girl character in the center of it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is, if anyone was looking for a topic or something, this is potentially a really big deal, because apparently they're asking not just going forward for these packaging fees to, be either removed or changed into a more agreeable thing, but they're even looking for like decades back of packaging fees and saying, okay, you should pay us back the money that you were taking, and so that's potentially a a really expensive proposition. So who knows how it'll.
I can do this one. I'll do this one.
You want to do that one?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you could even get some like primary research if you want to call your sister-in-law. What the hell is going on with this? Yeah, it's a big thing for Hollywood. So, and I never would have expected agents to get involved in this, but yeah, it's a big deal. I guess in part that's because the studio system of old was transformed in the 1970s and has continued to change. But since the 70s, and when movie stars became really instrumental in putting together projects, and then agencies started organizing and bundling production in a way that old studios used to, and they have become largely financial backers. They got money and production connection, but not necessarily putting together projects the way they used to. Cool. Okay. So sounds like everybody has a potential topic, and so maybe sometimes the news is so huge that you're going to have so many choices. How do you cope with it? But again, your job is not it's not going to be read 10 articles and summarize. That's too much for what we're looking for. Rather, try to find an article that does a decent job at advancing the latest news and giving us a bit of context. And you can often find that in looking through these. Possibilities here about the the 21st century acquisition. Given that Fox is involved in all of it, that's probably not your best resource, because they clearly have a point of view in all of this. But I think is to go. Oh boy, here's one. Disney layoffs hit TV ad sales team at former Fox networks. So, I think you'll be getting lots of little pieces that fit into the big picture. So I would say, Fenris, try to find an article as you search through, something that gives enough of a context to this, rather than something for instance, this might. Here's an opinion piece. Okay, so let's back out of that claim. Yeah. Screen Rant, probably not your best bet. Variety, like a really old, that would be a, Variety, a Hollywood Reporter. These are really good, Yeah, this might be a good one, Fenris. I can leave it open in a tab if you want, or you can find your own stuff for sure. But Yeah, this would be good. $71.3 billion acquisition and stuff. So that's the kind of context that would be useful. It's like, okay, how much money is at stake? What's likely to be the transformative effects on the industry? That would be good. Let's just see, is anyone, looks like no one is joining us in chat. So. Love the end of semesters. Okay. So the way this is going to go is next class, Jody's going to bring out the hand mic, and you get to stand up here and do your 60-second news presentation. Shouldn't feel nervous. We're all very close now. And so you can read it. That's no problem. In fact, it's preferable to read it, and be like concise and effective, rather than like, yeah, I can't really remember what the article exactly said, but it was sort of about this. And so that casualness is not as good as just, having the facts and just reading them out. So you want to go to the news source and just kind of reduce and summarize and sort of round off all the details so that you have a good solid minute of information. And, we want to be sure you mention, what company is involved. Give a little bit of context, like why is this newsworthy? Like, what's the impact likely to be? And again, make sure, like Rick is working on Apple. Of course, they're doing a lot, in telephones and stuff. But we're interested in media content, which is great that he's working on streaming content and such. But we want to make sure that in these giant corporations that touch a million different things, that we're working on, what seems to be directly the electronic media part of it. And in this case, all of that is good. But sometimes I'll get a Disney opened a restaurant in Taipei or something, and it's like, not right. Okay. And that's it. And then have a script. Like I said, no problem about reading it out. But what is good about that is you can submit me your script. So you can turn it in online, either before or after the presentation. But I do need a script in order to give you a grade. So you just improv it off the article, if that was an idea. So that's it. Questions? Clear? Okay. Writing 60 seconds it's about 12 lines of writing. Like there's an example in here, so that's a good 60 seconds, right? So it doesn't turn out to be a page or anything like that. It's 12 lines. You can time it, if you want, and you can always cut out some details. Like what we want is the gist of it. Okay. Great, excellent. So here I was asking everybody to tell us what you're planning on doing, but nobody did it. So we might as well just delete it. Just like, okay, no worries. And now everyone will be writing and saying, I couldn't post in that thing. What happened to it? I was like, oh, I should have left it up. However, that's okay. That wasn't for credit anyway. It was just for coordination. Hey, Julian. Julian, do you have an idea of what you'll be reporting on, industry news?
I was Googling about Pixar.
Oh, okay.
Just like kind of goes into Disney Plus. And I see that on the board. And yeah, that's kind of about as far as I've gotten with it.
Okay, let's see. Pixar, but not necessarily its acquisition by Disney. Let's just see if there's some angle we can help you with there, because this is for Thursday. So let's see what's up with Pixar. A new film. I mean, it depends. This Ignite More Diversity. Toy Story 4. Okay. Toy Story 4. Disney Plus. Well, there's your angle, Julian. And
It's gonna have what's his face's name on it. I mean, Disney Plus. You said Toy Story 4. I said Disney 4.
yeah. Well, there's a lot. I mean, I'm seeing a lot about content. Another thing is,
Last
I'm just thinking, so Disney Plus streaming, that might get into like Netflix competition. I'm not sure.
last year.
Okay, so Paris.
Toy Stories.
Who's up here doing Disney Plus streaming already? Was that you, Kidway? You were, okay. Okay. So I'm just thinking, what kind of angle can we set Julian up with so that we're not? Is
I
there
don't
more?
know if
Like
this is
Amazon.
relevant, but I was just wondering about
Amazon
like
is a huge streaming
with
service.
Toy Story 4 coming out.
It's actually very
Is John Lasseter going to get any credit for that, or
Oh, good point. Yeah.
since that's like his?
He'll be
baby,
erased.
he's
He'll be
going.
erased from history.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah.
doesn't really affect the industry though. But
Well, he's found another job somewhere.
yeah, I saw that, and then whatever actress was on that, I think like Emily Blunt or someone
There's
quit.
no way I'm going to be in any of your stuff.
Yeah, she quit.
Yeah.
And they brought him on.
Not sure. Just looking here. Clicks orders.
It says new adult. I was like, okay.
What'd you
This
say?
animated series. With one of the headlines was like, Netflix producing new adult.
Oh. You're
But they
like,
say, they're gonna say it's like video. They say, animated.
Skydance animation.
Yeah, that's right.
There it is. Whatever that is. It's basically, he's going to be the one holding it up. All right. Well,
Grow people over there.
yeah. So I'm seeing new releases, which is not exactly earth-shattering. And, the obvious connection to Disney as Pixar being a part of Disney Plus will be interesting. And the Thompson quits movie after studio. Wow. I don't know. Check it out. Check it out, Julian. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is just Netflix released their quarterly results, so they got another 10 million subscribers in the last 3 months.
Yeah, because
Whoa.
of the Beyonce thing.
Yes, right. They actually produced an original with her, right?
Homecoming.
That's a
It was
big,
really good.
big flashy project. Is it up there now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
You
No.
have to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good.
Cool. I will watch it. And $12.99 a month now, I think, right? They're
Yeah. I
jacking
don't
up the
know.
price.
It freaked me out.
Just still not that bad considering
Not that bad.
the offer.
Yeah.
Not bad.
But Disney, I think, is coming in at about 7 or something. 7,
Yeah, it should
7.99.
be like, the same price as what
You
they
took video
started
games at all?
off with.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's possible that Disney and Netflix can do okay here. And then the other big one, Hulu, I think, reported making a $1.5 billion off of advertising.
Yeah.
So that's something not to forget, too, I think, is that.
That they're going with the advertising.
Exactly. While these guys are two subscription services,
Looking it
Hulu
up.
can do both.
Yeah.
Subscription plus paid advertising.
Do it.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know. How would you guys feel if Netflix started showing ads?
In the middle of something?
Yeah.
They reduced it.
Like the way they did it as Hulu. Oh, you could get like a cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would be okay.
Like what
How much
Spotify
is
does.
Hulu?
Yeah. Sorry?
How much is Hulu?
Oh God, I don't know. There's
I think they're all about $8-9.
so you get with advertising or more expensive without. Yeah. And I think both ways you have to pay something.
Yeah.
What's the one without? How much does that cost? Like 20?
Without? No, I don't know.
I doubt it would be more than Netflix.
I agree.
They're trying to compete.
Yeah, I don't want to jump down that rabbit hole, but yeah, it probably is. Yeah, I mean, check it out. But I think it's probably under 10, even without advertising. But someone with their device could look that up. Because as soon as
$11.99 for none.
for non,
Yeah.
for no ads.
No commercials.
Okay,
So
Oh, wow.
I guess Netflix is just going on their level.
it's sort of similar pricing.
But then Disney's coming in at
Probably gonna have
$7.
Yeah, but they're
ads.
also, although they acquired all the Fox stuff, they're still limited, like with their properties, like, you know what I mean? It's Disney.
They've got great
Marvel,
stuff, but they don't have
Star
that
Wars.
much.
And then Archive, and Star Wars, and then it's an archive of
That's a lot,
Fox
dude.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it's nothing new, really. It's like, all the Marvel movies are like, you get the same thing every time you watch them, right? And then you get
That's our
the Disney
perspective.
movies.
That's our perspective.
Yeah, true.
Right?
But it's like, but there's, I don't know. Like Netflix has the advantage of like they're in everything. It's kind of like Warner Brothers. Like they have their hands in all sorts of franchises.
They do, yeah, yeah. I think they've been working really hard to build up a lot of original content and stuff.
Yeah.
Looking ahead to the day when Disney will pull all of their stuff.
I think Netflix is gonna hurt.
You think it's gonna get hurt? Yeah.
It's gonna hurt a little bit.
It'll hurt, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna long term. It's gonna be that.
'Cause, I mean, they were complaining when HBO pulled their stuff.
Yeah,
That hurt them, and
Yeah.
HBO's not that big.
that's true. But then look at Netflix.
Their
They
stars.
survived it just
Yeah,
fine.
they did.
Yeah.
They did.
And they're like the top streaming service.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're all set for Thursday, which is great. And let's see. Last class we were talking about media operations. We should probably look at the cahoots on that, just so that we know what else we needed to cover there. These things are always so massive. I know there's a concentration there. I tried to make it more about news operations locally, just because that's where we know people who've gotten jobs for our department and stuff. And it's also, you know, where the local jobs in television are, mostly. So, just get that started. Let's take a look at those. And then we can get into this week's topic. So let's just see here. We're gonna do a Kahoot. Oops, if I can remember my password now. These little blanks here. We're gonna do a Kahoot just to make sure we covered, because remember we got into an interesting video about cron and such, but that doesn't necessarily mean we covered everything in those PowerPoints. But if we put those PowerPoints up today, we'll go to sleep pretty fast. So let's see, chapter 11. So this, again, we call it teach the test, just when there's so much stuff. We go ahead and just check out the questions, make sure at least we've covered everything. Questions. So let's see. And if you'll allow me to expound, I'm sure there's plenty that I didn't mention. I can fill in based on what's up here.
It took a minute.
Yeah, connection doesn't look good. I was sitting there watching it spin around. Okay, oh, this should be interesting. I bet you I can get beat here on this one. All right. Hey, thanks. People are jumping in there. Streaming content to your computer takes less file space than downloading it. Okay, awesome. So let me put this in context of the chapter, basically. There's information there about podcasting and streaming as two, ways of delivering content digitally now. So just a reminder, streaming would be, like Spotify type of thing. You need to have your internet connection operating versus podcasting. It's a download to your phone. So, this podcast app, you subscribe and the file gets downloaded to your device. So that's the big difference, I guess. Okay, good. Let's move. Newsrooms using new technologies typically increase the size of their field production crews. Great, absolutely right. So what we saw last class is, with automation, like putting the cameras on pedestals, it can be controlled from the control room, combining all of those different technical functions in the control room, basically automating them into the computer so one person inputs a bunch of macros and then just hits, the space bar and something else happens that used to take 5 people. So that's,
And a woman out in the field.
all by herself,
All by herself,
right?
yeah,
Versus
all the time.
when I was working, there were 3 of us, and now she's all by herself dragging the stuff around. Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. So
Is that because she's at Cron, or is it?
no, it's really a
kind of
tendency of all.
everybody now.
Yeah, I mean, Cron's maybe a little bit more like most of the local stations across the country.
Smaller budget.
Yeah, exactly. Versus maybe in Bay Area like KTVU, they really have a big budget, so they might still have a few more people than usual. Studio cameras are mounted on, what's the name of the device? Okay, so the answer is pedestals. Tripods is a good one, but so pedestals are like tripods on wheels that go up and down. And in this case, they also are motorized and stuff. They can be put on a track so that they actually roll, in a specified direction without having to, have a human operator push them. So it's called pedestals. This computerized device combines and processes signal from multiple video sources. So this is in the control room. Router, switcher, Chiron, patch bay. All right, so yeah, the name of the device is a switcher. Okay, so yes, you should all take our video classes. BCST 140, studio video in the fall. They have a great time in the studio doing different productions. So you can learn all about all the studio equipment and actually use most of it. Radio promotions are designed to generate controversy so people will talk about the station. Okay, so the right answer is false. I know you wish it was true, but so we have heard, of your Howard Sterns or your occasional kind of crazy disc jockey stunts, but the vast majority of promotions in a station will be rather, to promote the station in a non-controversial way. Basically, the reason for that is they want audience, they don't want problems, and so the odd exception is what we're used to hearing about, and I suppose I wanted to set the record straight a little bit on that by favoring this question, because you don't want to get fined. It can give you problems the next time that you have to apply to renew your broadcast license as well. You're going to have to explain what you've done ever since that bad time when you got fined and stuff, and so. It really is much more of a pain to have that kind of thing happen than simply to engage in, non-controversial promotions, which 99% of the time you're putting billboards on buses, you're going out to all kinds of community events, you're co-sponsoring other events like concerts or blood drives, or and that's most of what promotions is in a radio station. Of course, you do hear about crazy antics of DJs, but it's really the exception. Wouldn't want people to think that that's what usually is happening. Okay. One advantage that terrestrial radio continues to have over satellite and streaming is localism. So you see that? Excellent. Good. Who's in charge of policy, hiring, payroll, contracts, and facilities at a local station? Is that the production department, the engineering department, the program director, or general management? Perfect. General management, okay. So yeah, that range of functions are basically like management functions, right? Hiring people, paying them, making sure that the business and the facilities are okay. So that's the GM who takes care of that, versus the other ones are more oriented to content. Which of the following works most closely with a music director? Promotions director, chief engineer, program director, or regional sales manager? Just gotta draw a little thing here. Good, so most people got the program director. So if you're looking at like a radio station org chart, and you got the GM, and you're gonna have sales, and you're going to have programming, basically. And, these are quite different parts of the operation. Maybe closely allied to sales would be promotions here. And, so what else have we got? We got engineering. And, the business side of it, we'd also have traffic. Remember what traffic was? That's when they play a spot, they have to be able to account for it to the client. So traffic, billing, right? So this would be real administrative stuff. So in a television this is radio, basically. Under programming, so you would have news, you would have music, and the music director would be hiring DJs and stuff like that as well. So probably have that kind of thing. So program director would be here in our little org chart. Okay, next up. The engineering department of a local station is also responsible for FCC technical compliance. Here. Okay, great. So that is true. So, a big part of having a license as a terrestrial broadcaster is making sure that your signal is working, not just working well, but working to the specifications of your license. So you change something around, your transmitter becomes a little bit more powerful, and then all of a sudden, in some neighboring community, your signal is interfering with theirs on the same frequency. That's a problem, and so the FCC gets back to the engineer. So it's really the engineer's job to, make sure they're in compliance like that. So they're not just maintaining equipment and stuff. They're also making sure that they're obeying what their license tells them. Okay, the system for distributing cable TV to subscribers resembles a tree with trunk and branches. Great, true. So, from what they call the head end, which is your Comcast factory or whatever, fiber optic cables come out to little boxes that are in the neighborhoods, and then those get either turned into, old school wires, or sometimes you'll still, now you get fiber going into the home as well. So it winds up, looking like that with some, really high capacity, high speed trunk, and then the branches that go out to people's homes. And that's why if you live, that's what they don't guarantee the exact bandwidth that they put in their promotions, because the further you live, in fact, this is what the question we're talking about right now. The further you live from the trunk, sort of the less powerful, less fast the signal is that gets to you. Okay, so maybe that's confusingly worded, but so it's basically the cable system signal does lose strength as it travels further from the head end, and so you'll find that if you are not getting good response, good performance, what you expected, you'll call Comcast and they'll say, well, the problem is you live like 2 miles away from the box. We can't do any better than that. Buying time on other media to publicize a broadcast station involves which department? So they're, a radio station, and they put up, billboards or on the back of a bus. So what department would take care of that? Cool. So it's promotions, right? Half the job of promotions is trying to get new audience to listen to your radio station. So, you don't advertise on your own station because those people are already listening to you. You advertise on other media. So that's half your job. The other half is, doing this outreach.
So sales would be working to get people to advertise on your.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Right. So sales is going after clients who advertise on your station, and promotions is going and promoting you in
Outside.
other places. Yeah, new listeners. TV programming departments are primarily concerned with content censorship, program production, program acquisition and scheduling, or hiring of staff. So we're talking about programming departments.
Yeah, it's like that. Hopefully.
Boom. Yes, people did well. So yeah, our little org chart here is for radio, but if you look into what's going on in programming in a TV station, they are producing their own news, but that would be in the production department, right? And then in programming, they're acquiring either network content or syndicated, right, to put on late at night reruns and stuff. So that's basically what they're doing, is getting that material and then figuring out when to put it on the air. So that would be what's happening in television programming at a local station. In larger markets, the sales manager position may be divided into local sales manager and something else. A collections agency, a regional or national sales manager, a promotions director, a general manager. Awesome, good. So regional or national sales manager. And if you look through like the industry publications, for industry news, it is like page after page of some new executive who's being hired, as like a sales manager or a programming manager for some kind of regional station. So it just seems like there's endless amounts of that kind of activity going on, even in radio and TV. Okay, cool. So I think we're done. Bravo. Oh, bravo to all. Okay. So, that is our stab at talking about station operations, basically. And I guess, to summarize again, what we were looking at there was what goes on in a local station, be it a radio or television station, what the key parts of the station are, based on the org chart and the different things that go on there, and how that is changing due to the impact of technology, especially in the production that they do in a local station news. And then looking ahead to just how else are they going to distribute their content through podcasts, through streaming or such. Okay. Right, so this week, in addition to doing our industry news presentations, we also need to start talking about your options for the final research paper, which is coming up in, what is May 9th? Is it about 2.5 weeks? So,
I have a quick question. Are
Yes,
we still
Rick.
doing the discussions, the weekly?
they are going to run out very soon. I can confirm for you like when exactly they do run out. Yeah. Because there's not one like every week right up until the end of semester. I think we had to do 10 of them, and I just need to count up how many we've actually
Okay.
done. Yeah. I will, I'll get back to you guys, and I won't close them down from one week to another until we're sure about when they're supposed to end. It's a good question, Rick. I'm starting to let that stuff go by, and I should keep on top of it for you guys. So here, remember you all wrote your first research essay, which is wonderful. Second one coming up, very similar. You have a choice of assigned topics. It's supposed to be 4 pages long, double spaced. Your key source of information is the textbook. You can go beyond it to whatever you could find on the internet or in the library if you wish, but you don't have to. You're not being evaluated on a minimum number of sources, but rather, getting the necessary information from the textbook or other sources if you wish to, support what it is you want to say about one of the assigned topics. So, like I did last time, I'll probably talk about one topic per class going forward, just to give you ideas about how I think you could tackle the topic and maybe throw some resources out there that you could use, save you some time searching. You're welcome just to begin and jump right in before I talk to you about it too much. But, so let's take a quick look at what the options are. And I tried to vary a little bit of what the topic was and also the kind of work you'd be doing on the topic. So the first one, to prepare an advertising profile of 3 different television programs. So this one involves looking at 3 shows, and they would have to be shows that actually include advertising in them. So you'd have to be able to watch some actual television to do this, I guess. And looking at the advertising, so making a list of what ads show up, trying to figure out, are they national in scope, which usually means a big brand is behind them, or are they local ads, so it would be a local business. Network ads is stuff that the network is actually promoting for its own material, basically promoting its programming. So then it says, discuss the trends you see in the type of advertising presented and what it says about the target audience. So what you're doing first is observing and making a list of what you see. What were the ads in the 3 different shows? And then thinking about, okay, the advertiser bought time on that channel or in that show for a reason. They think, they're after the audience that's going to watch that show. So you're basically interpreting, you're connecting what the ads are doing with the type of program that you're watching. So if you're looking at the O'Reilly factor, which is probably off the air now, and you're seeing lots of Viagra ads, you can connect, the older male conservative audience with that type of programming because you figure that's what, those are the people who are going to be watching, okay? So there's a few parts to this, but basically you're making educated guesses about the audience that's targeted, and then you're saying, okay, like why would the advertiser want to reach them, and how does the show deliver them? So it says, as discussed in class, pick 3 programs of different types. So what you want to do, what makes this easiest and most fun, is to create something with contrasts. So so go for a show which targets a particular type of audience, and then try to find other shows that are quite different. Shows that go after younger audiences, shows that go after predominantly male or female audiences. Got a bunch of people here who probably want to look at our classroom to see if they can fix it or something.
No one's here. Go home.
I don't know. Hello, sirs. Were you looking for a particular classroom?
I wanted to see.
Up here, our mold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just up here, but like it literally grew all the way up there. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, it was much worse before, but right now they cleaned it off twice, and it's sort of growing back. 3 times. So this is what's growing back. All right. Well, thank you all for taking care of it. Making our classroom a healthy place is good.
Lungs hurt.
Uh-oh, we can't come back. You're gonna have to. I'm gonna be lecturing with a gas mask. But I must say, shout out to City College and the guys who take care of us here, because at San Francisco State, a pipe burst, and the entire basement, including television studios, offices, was filled with water.
Oh, no.
And then they, fixed that, emptied it, and then people were saying, well, what about the mold, man? It was like they just said, no, don't anybody talk about that, because we don't have a building to relocate this entire thing, and so they basically just let the health hazard kind of go. You would not see that here, for sure. Thank you, sir. You would not see that here. Every time we have a little issue like mold or something, they're on it. Credit due to City College. Yeah. Okay. So anybody got any questions about this first one? Or any... It can be fun, and it's largely just thinking through, do you have access to TV, and then watching 3 different shows, noting down the ads, and you don't have to account for every ad you see, but rather when it says, what are the trends that you see? Well, like a trend would be, this is a sporting event, it attracts male audiences, and when I look at the ads, there seems to be a trend there that
Pickup trucks.
it's for automotive, right? Or, it's like, oh, it was a cable show about, makeovers or something, and there was a lot of makeup ads or something like that. So by trend, what I mean there is you don't have to account for every single ad. But if you saw 3 or 4 ads with pickup trucks, then that's the kind of trend I would say. It's like, and there's, maybe ads that you don't need to describe or even consider. You're just looking for the major trends. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Next one. XM and Sirius Radio are competitors for the terrestrial radio audience. Discuss the successes and failures of satellite radio using such discussion points as the business model, subscription fatigue, and high-profile personalities that may or may not attract the audience the services require. Okay, so this one you could do a great job on this if you're interested in satellite radio. Again, a starting place might be Wikipedia, but also if you go into the databases, you can certainly find. Oh, Mike. Hey, Mike, I got your email. Power on. These things happen. Okay. There we go. We are talking about possible term paper topics. So you know, anybody know any satellite radio personalities off the top of their heads? Chris?
Howard Stern.
Howard Stern would be one.
Pretty much saved
Sway.
satellite radio.
Sway.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. So Howard Stern saved them early on. Yeah, I don't know if he's still that, you know, popular there. So the idea is they cost a lot of money, and you may easily find some kinds of discussion. You know, again, Google News might be a good place to start. Again, just looking for the industry news type of discussions about, you know, how is satellite radio faring? You know, maybe search for subscription fatigue, search for the personalities that you know who are up there, and just see if you can find out any more information about, you know, whether they seem to be, you know, performing for satellite radio, whether they're actually worth their money, because there's been plenty of discussion about that. I think you can locate it. If you can't, you know, the other thing just is working off the business model, giving some consideration as to, you know, what are the pros and cons of a subscription-based music service where you don't get to choose, you know, the lineup, the songs that you're hearing. You know, is that the way you think people want to get their audio? You know, basically curated and organized like old-time radio. And then, you know, think through. There's like tons of niches up there. Does that make a difference? You know, that there's dozens and dozens of channels instead of just the one stream. Is that all worth it? So, any ideas about that one or questions about that one? This one I could see, you know, the first one required some, you know, analytical work and even creative work, is trying to connect the audience that you figure the show must have with the advertising. This one I think is much more straightforward. So you're considering, you know, how's satellite radio doing? Okay. So that one might be good. Prepare. So we're on to the next one. So our local radio stations have long histories. They get licensed and they change format, because you can have a license from the FCC and it doesn't tie you down to any particular format. So they change format pretty regularly. They, you know, they get bought and sold. They exist within different kind of demographic situations. So all of those you can find out a little bit by picking one particular radio station. Like you might pick KMEL, for instance. And if you go to Wikipedia, all of the radio stations have a really extensive history. And they'll really dig down into the details. Like, when was it licensed? What did it originally play? What was the format? You know, were there any stars associated with it? You know, there's quite a lot about each radio station. And so you're basically telling the life story of a station. And the key moments in any station's life are the format changes. And that usually happens quite suddenly. They'll just, you know, at midnight change formats, and that may entail like laying off everybody who was on air and changing entirely. You know, let's imagine if you flip from a rock station to a country station. You know, it's like the performers are going to sound completely different. The music is going to change, and they make these changes in secret. So it's like boom, one day from one day to the next, because what they don't want is for the competition to kind of scoop them or something. So they try to surprise everybody with a change, which means that they'll go to another city and hire talent like from another city and bring them here in secret so that they don't, you know, tip off anybody's hand.
So literally, there's no announcement at all.
Sorry?
Literally, there's no announcement at all.
I didn't. You said literally there's no.
Like tomorrow they switch a program.
No, they go on the air. They go on the air, and that's when they start announcing, like with the new format. Yeah. Another thing you'll find is they change brands. So you know they'll sometimes, you know, just be part of a national type of branding thing that the different stations across the country will they'll have a Kiss FM or they'll have a Wolf or something like that. So, and that will, also figure into this. So the other thing is when they get bought up, usually KMEL had quite a crisis once Clear Channel bought it. They laid off a lot of local DJs and stopped playing Bay Area music. So there's a lot of bad, reaction towards that from the listener base. They course corrected eventually somewhat, but you can find out a lot about that. So it doesn't have to be a local Bay Area station. It could be in Los Angeles or another city if you like. That'd be fine too. So yeah, trying to tell the life story of a station. That'd be all right. You could also call up a station if you want, which would be a great kind of inroad into, it's like, what are you guys doing in terms of promotions? Is there anything I could help out with if you ever wanted to start working in radio? It would be, it's a good opportunity just to call up and say, hey, I'm doing a research project and I really want to focus on your station because I think it's like a very interesting place. Could anybody here give me, a little bit of an insider's view of the station and how it's developed? So I talked to Jerry Dove from Clear Channel at the time. I think he's at Entercom now. So they have community managers who will talk to you, and they'll give you spin, but it's fun spin to incorporate into a chart paper. Next one up, discuss the pros, cons, and implications of the proliferation of social networking tools being used in news, such as blogs, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, and Twitter. So, just trying to be topical here and talk about some of the stuff that's come up in the last couple of years, which is changing our view of social media, which used to be very, uniformly positive, I think, and now we're a little more aware of some of the problems that could potentially arise. So here's a chance to, talk a little bit more in depth about, we were talking earlier in the semester about the New Zealand shooting and, how that seemed to be designed for social media consumption. That might be an interesting case study. Or, Russian interference, that's another interesting case study. Or others that you can find, and you may just discuss the issue without going too deeply into any one event. But it is good to, in a question like this, there's the opportunity to talk about what's going on. I think you might be interested in this one, Mike? Yeah.
After listening to you, I'm not sure this is on track what you're looking for. I talked to Julian. She's the downtown librarian.
Yeah.
She just switched from Google years ago. So the younger age group. So I asked her, well, so look at the big
Right, you were saying she used to work at Google, and she came to work at City College.
because
Good move.
hierarchy, pretty not just entry level, because she just want to settle down, have a kid, and she don't want to work 6 days a week in
Too much
12
pressure.
hours.
Right.
And morning 7 o'clock in the morning.
Those corporate jobs, they sound good, but they're...
Well, I thought you could relate to this better than I do. I mean, this is all the topic a little bit closer to beside PBS. And I asked about, she told me briefly about Disney, and we can find merging some program on, like, I can't remember because we talked in the top 5 minutes before she goes to the library, about streaming.
Streaming?
Online, recently. And then she also mentioned, and Brian next to her also mentioned about, Netflix is changing the program. I said, why? I thought they are replacing like the old blockbuster, right? The rental, 10 years ago I used to go there. They said, no, not only that, because they don't want to pay. I said, I don't know what's the name, but I said, provider, source, who supply the movie. And it's a movie supplier, let's say.
Okay.
And they say, Netflix don't want to pay them when we need a contract. So in a way, they don't want to be less leverage with the pricing. So now they have, I guess they have money now, the financial power, they will forming their own program. They hire the script writer, but it's not necessarily fitting here because you did not mention Netflix. I don't know if it's too far out of that.
Right.
It's more updates, more recently.
You know what? I
Last
think
2
you.
years, right?
Okay.
Last 2 years.
Well, let's maybe I should.
so I emailed her and asked her for a response this morning, but I had to come here, so I didn't have a chance and to deal with the lost USB yesterday. So right now I'm hoping after this,
Okay.
I'll try to follow up and see what she found out. If I forward her information to you, you told me it's approvable or
Sure. You know what? There's so many people who are interested in the streaming situation
Yeah,
right
I am.
now.
Yeah.
I think maybe I will create another optional question. I'll have it done by Thursday. Another optional question which deals with sort of the state of streaming right now.
Yeah, because
So that it does seem that
that's fake YouTube, right? YouTube.
about half the class is going to present on streaming issues anyway through their news, right? So okay, Mike, you're opening this up.
I put the
I like it. I'm excited. I'm
Put
excited.
on the discussion when I have a chance the next 40 hours, so no one step on each other.
Sure, but if I make it an official option, then everyone can add to
Okay, good.
think that through. And I think it's a good idea, Mike, because that's really what's going on right now too. And so I think the librarian was probably talking about Netflix moving into original programming, in part to avoid paying the licensing fees for all the old libraries, which apparently Netflix got a really sweet deal early on, but then the
Movie industry, right?
movie distribution or series distribution. Basically, I remember reading that Showtime made a deal with and Starz. Both of them made really several year deals with Netflix, so they were getting very little money because they didn't think that Netflix just would be really very important to them. And then after a few years, it took off, and Netflix, when it came time to renegotiate all of those streaming deals, had a much harder time and had to pay a lot more for the content, and that was part of what pushed them into their original programming drive, which now they got Beyonce putting out a movie on Netflix, they got Shonda Rhimes, they got the biggest names in television working for Netflix right now, and people doing feature films, and so there's so much new content they barely even mention it.
Question.
Go.
Yep, right.
What we talked about earlier with the WGA, would that affect Netflix, or are they part of the deal?
Yeah, sure, they would, because they've got to,
I thought they were like separate from Hollywood though.
Anybody writing basically that kind of material is in the Writers Guild.
Isn't the Writers Guild in Los Angeles anyways?
I mean, it's a national organization, but I would presume almost all the writers actually live in Los Angeles for sure.
Oh, definitely.
And a big company like Netflix basically signs agreements that, we support the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild. I mean, if they want, Cary Fukunaga or anybody to direct a film for them, it's all going to be like, they're all DGA, they're all WGA.
Okay.
There's no way Netflix is not. I mean, even while I was when I was at NAB, Netflix had, on several of the booths, they had, they had this, Netflix documentary approved or something. It was like, I think they're so big in documentary production that they basically have, I don't know, I got to look it up exactly what it was, but it was part of their brand was basically, guild cooperation.
Yeah, like I feel like Netflix and documentaries, it's always like murders,
Oh, because true crime is such a big
Yeah.
thing right now.
Yeah.
They do like murder stories, like serial killer stuff. It's
Yeah.
like scary.
That is so
Sells.
popular.
I don't
Yeah,
think
it
it's,
does.
like,
It only
illegal
makes
that
sense
it's
if you want to see it.
It's
popular.
American culture, right?
I mean,
I think
that's
it's
you'd
like
be crazy not
it's
to,
like a
right?
psyop.
Yeah.
Like it's just so weird why we all love, or we all love like murder and shit.
But
There's-
now everyone
I did that-
everyone is looking for a murder that they can reinvestigate and do the next. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough left anymore for all the true crime activity.
We like to make a quick comment, if I may. I'm just looking for the cell phone model now. So I'm looking at, okay, if Google is going to come on, join the market. So let's start thinking, let's see if we can merge a partnership with YouTube, Facebook. They want to have a piece of us. So we have better leverage financial power to have better deal with the source and writer. So we can fight Google, for example. I'm just looking for the money, and who knows that? Who saying that will not happen in the next 4 years? So they all
Yeah.
try to merge and buy each other. If they can buy each other, they partnership start exchange each other, and then they can fight a big guy. Because giant Google has a lot of money, you know.
Yes. I mean, they all do, right? And they,
Yeah,
and
they all want to get into the
yeah.
home programming.
Yes, and part of it, you know, I mean, Rick is working on Apple's streaming service, you know, for instance, and so that's a company which has so much money that they can enter into competition with the traditional content people like Disney and stuff at that level, and so you have a, you know, you're raising a topic which is interesting, is like it's already so hard to enter into competition at the top level. You wonder how, you know, they always say, where's the next phase, where's the next Netflix, or where's the next, you know, upstart, game-changing, small company that can somehow build up to be a giant like Netflix now or Apple. It's always a bit of a surprise because
They have to survive, right? They have to follow
Right.
money.
I mean, look, YouTube existed for about a year before it was bought for billions of dollars by Google. And that's still their, you know, best bet in terms of entertainment programming.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's unique, and nobody can compete with it. You know, nobody even tries. And so they have that. You know, and now they've done an original series in there, and you know, so they extend the scope of it. But they are so huge. You wonder how any new thing can actually survive, and yet they do. You know, Netflix made it. So definitely, I would love to add in a kind of
Maybe open up.
question that directs, you know, opens up the doors to talking about streaming and stuff. That makes a lot of sense. So I'll do that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then finally, your text suggested the bulk. Okay, so we haven't even gotten here yet. I think next week we're going to talk about some of the media effects research that was done, and some of that was done with concern for young audiences and the specific characteristics of young audiences as being less critical, more impressionable, and, you know, obviously more vulnerable to
Influence.
negativity. Yeah, not just influence like on their minds, but also like, you know, you see something traumatic on television and it's not good, right? So that for decades there have been some exceptions in programming for young audiences. You know, limits on how you can advertise to them, how much you can advertise to them, which makes a lot of sense. And then, you know, different broadcast windows during the day where, you know, a kid is you're not supposed to have even offensive programming between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. on the air and stuff. So there has been, you know, regulations designed to protect the younger viewer. And also we come to our assumptions about what's on TV with, you know, ideas that particular brands are going to be better for our kids. I mean, I don't know, Chris, if you feel this, but, you know, when you see Disney, you kind of, the guarantee, and this may well change now that they're going into streaming and stuff, but the guarantee is it's family friendly, aspirational, relatively positive. You know, I'm sure if you sign up to a Disney stream, you're going to think, okay, I can put the kid in front of it and it'll be okay. It's not like, you know, they're going to find something that's awful. And, you know, if you want to make them smart, you put them in front of PBS. You know, these are old school assumptions.
Old school ways.
Things are changing now, though, and so this one opens up the possibility that, you know, maybe there's all kinds of kids programming sources which are, you know, positive in their way. So this concept of pro-social speaks to that. Anti-social would mean, you know, something that's bad for people or bad for society. Pro-social, good for kids, good for society. So can we find pro-social programming in places we wouldn't expect to see it, like Nick or Cartoon Network or so and so? And, you know, SpongeBob, I mean, SpongeBob definitely isn't Sesame Street, but was it in its day, you know, a source for some kind of pro-social programming and stuff? So if you feel like, you know, kind of, first of all, interested in programming for kids, and second of all, sort of swimming against the assumptions, you know, swimming against the tide of assumptions, then this could be a good one.
But wasn't I've been watching it for over 12 years. And
Watching what?
PBS, local
PBS? Yeah.
And it seemed to make some changes. Was that the news is partnership with CNBS?
Oh, I'm not sure.
So I see the logo and say, huh? I mean, they still have the business news report, all that.
Yeah.
So it seems like they either have partnership or another outside traditional television channel had brought in part of the share, because I know they
Okay.
constantly they may be struggling for funding because they by donation.
Alright.
How much funding you continue to?
I have to confess, I'm ignorant because I don't watch
Yeah.
television news at all.
So
You can look it up.
check it out. I hope that will not influence the program in the future, because they
There's a lot.
who knows they may start adult programming after 12 midnight.
Yeah.
In Japan, every adult is after 12 midnight.
Yeah.
Everything before 12 is safe.
You know, regarding PBS and especially NPR, the difficulties they're having is that it's supported by people who support local stations, but more and more the people just care about consuming the content online, so they don't care about the local station. They want the podcast, and then, so nobody supports KALW here in San Francisco, but they happily download tons of podcasts that originate from the system. So they're struggling with how to work that out. Okay, we ran out of time. So remember, next class is our industry news presentation. Everyone has a decent topic. Make it tight. Make it 60 seconds. No problem to read it. And it's a lot more fun to have a good, solid 60 seconds that we can discuss afterwards instead of waffling around and stuff. All right. So and we'll see you on Thursday for that. It is one of my favorite days. I know. It's probably not yours, but mine, definitely.
Does it on stream?
The what?
Let me see what he does up on stream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not mine.
I'm open for input
I was just
too.
telling Julian, Google's now streaming. They have a platform to stream video games called Stadia or
Yeah.
Stadia or something,
Oh, really? Wow.
where you don't have to download or like use a disc. It's all streaming.
Stadia.
That's the future video games.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the PS5
They wanna be the
isn't
Netflix.
even gonna have like
Wow.
discs.
Well, it is gonna have this.